Hello, I'm Stephanie Marson, and this is my Capstone portfolio for the Technical Communications Bachelor of Science degree at Arizona State University. A friend who was a senior programmer at Yahoo had encouraged me to explore technical writing. So, in the spring 2013 semester, I transferred into the Technical Communications program as a sophomore. I had recently taken a medical retirement from the California State University system, and I decided to turn disadvantage to my advantage and use the time off work to complete my degree. Along the way, there have been challenges: classes taken from hospital beds, dropped classes, and even skipped semesters. However, I have persevered, pushed through, and I'm finally in sight of my goal. While I'm not physically ready to re-enter the full-time professional workforce, I am hoping to volunteer my time on a limited basis until I have become fully ready. In the meantime, I'll just have to babysit my grandson. The skills I have learned through ASU's Technical Communications program have prepared me to re-enter the professional workplace once I am ready. This portfolio will demonstrate how I have met the program outcomes by showing a number of documents and projects that I have completed during my courses which meet these objectives. I will begin with a brief overview of the 4 program outcome categories, and then I will introduce a variety of artifacts and explain how they meet the program outcomes. The first set of program outcomes is rhetorical knowledge, or RK. This set of outcomes addresses audience needs, including who that audience is, the appropriate format to use for the circumstances and genre, as well as presentation in terms of formality, tone, and even appropriateness of technologies. The second set of program outcomes is critical thinking, reading, and writing, or CTRW. This set of outcomes is a bit more cerebral than the others and addresses concepts related to how information research and writing shape and interact with societal beliefs and structure, as well as how we use them for the process of communicating. The third set of program outcomes is processes, or simply P. This set of outcomes addresses the actual procedures of the writing process, including the idea that writing usually happens in multiple drafts and collaborating with other writers, reviewers, or editors, including a variety of technological assistance for storing and managing data, drafts, and final versions. The final set of program outcomes is knowledge of conventions, or KC. This set of outcomes is concerned not only with the knowledge of genre conventions, but with citation and copyright conventions, storage and retrieval conventions, as well as writing conventions such as grammar, syntax, and punctuation. In order to demonstrate that I have acquired an understanding of the program outcomes, I will examine 4 artifacts and explain how each meets the outcomes. The artifacts to be examined are an analytical report, a virtual presentation, a brochure, and a grant proposal. The analytical report required that I research and compare a variety of vehicles and make a recommendation about which to add to a publication company's fleet. After a bit of preliminary research, I focused on completing a detailed analysis and comparison of the 3 vehicles. I kept the audience in mind and made sure to include the specific details that they would need to make an informed decision. I began this project with a general idea of which vehicle would be best suited. However, the research made it clear that a different vehicle would be the best choice. I made sure to keep my tone neutral while presenting the facts. Because this report was mostly comparative, I was careful to format the information in a way that would allow the audience to quickly compare each vehicle, and relied on the summary narrative to add details about the current fleet vehicles. I made sure to keep each vehicle in the same column throughout the report, and I utilized tables, charts, and images to help communicate important details. The virtual presentation documented how the PSA, or the problem-solving approach, was applied to a particular assignment. This activity required analysis of the writing process and how the PSA was instrumental in that process. Here is a brief clip from the presentation. It's important to know that the first 3 stages, and sometimes the 4th, aren't necessarily a linear process. Sometimes you'll start with research, and sometimes you'll move back and forth between these steps several times before you're finally ready to distribute your document. Creating the presentation meant learning new PowerPoint skills, and the original assignment required that I work with a trusted reviewer to give feedback on my work. Additionally, peer reviews were given and received throughout the course. For a presentation, visual design is part of the surface features, so I was careful to use a consistent cog theme throughout the presentation. I was also careful to provide references for each image used, giving credit to their original source. The instructor described this presentation as exemplary work and asked to use it as an example for future students. This brochure was one in a series of deliverables produced for a new nonprofit organization. Part of the process for this project was to create grids and a wireframe of the layout. Because I wanted to include a membership tear-off form without compromising the rest of the brochure, I opted for a legal-sized document which would be parallel folded to accommodate the 8-panel style of the brochure. The tear-off form was placed in the position that would allow it to be removed without compromising the body of the brochure. The organization's current brochure had been hastily put together, but I used it to determine content, including a comprehensive list of their activities. I added graphic elements, nuanced typographical elements such as leading changes and line spacing enhancements. This exercise included an explanatory memo in which I provided an audience analysis and detailed my design choices. The memo is available in the other documentation with my portfolio. This brochure was also invited to be used as an example for future classes. The grant proposal required that I find real grant opportunities for a real nonprofit and involved a substantial amount of research to support the need for the grant. The entire class was devoted to one proposal, so we were able to spend a good amount of time on each step. The first step was to decide on a nonprofit organization to represent. This was easy for me because I had already done work for Stanislaus Humanists, and I had recently been elected as the board chair. So I had a deep understanding of the organization's goals. One of those goals is to begin hosting a week-long summer science camp for underrepresented children in elementary school through high school. The next step was to find a suitable funding source, a task that was much more difficult than expected. I eventually decided on the Semantic Foundation because their science and technology focus aligned well with Stanislaus Humanist goals. I researched the need for STEM education, concentrating on underrepresented children, and I included statistics on the poverty and educational levels of the 3-county region that Stanislaus Humanist serves. I was keenly aware that my proposal's language, polish, and professionality had the potential to help change the lives of impoverished children in my service area, so I was extremely careful to address every point on the funder's application, to carefully explain the problem and our proposed solution, to reliably present accurate statistics with all sources documented, and to use the appropriate structure and writing conventions. While rather dry on the graphical side, this project did include a number of tables and budgets to summarize information. This was one of my last classes, and the complexity of the project really brought together all of the program outcomes. The instructor characterized this as a high-quality project and said I did a great job on it. While I've definitely achieved all of the program outcomes, the outcomes related to peer review have become very important to me. I've only touched briefly on those until now because I wanted to spend a little time to address them in depth. After a few classes where I received feedback along the lines of "great job," "looks good," "way to go," and other meaningless sentiments, I began to make a very concerted effort to give thoughtful and practical feedback. I adopted a strategy where I would choose 2 other students, unless I was required to do more, and follow just those people through the entire class. This was especially effective in classes with multi-week projects because I was able to keep the audience analysis, rhetorical situation, and the students' goals in mind while I watched the progress of their project. I developed a peer review philosophy of sorts and always tried to stick by it. Several different instructors commented on the quality of my feedback, and twice in TWC 421, Principles of Writing with Technology, the instructor emailed my feedback to the entire class. In the first email, he noted, "Look at the combination of positive, supportive, and critical feedback and the level of detail and care. It's a great model." His comments encouraged me to continue providing that level of feedback to my peers. I have enjoyed learning the principles of technical communication at Arizona State University. I am proud to be a Sun Devil. I have appreciated the dedication and instruction of the department faculty. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for this opportunity.